What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so Trump doesn't trust his intelligence agencies. Surprise, surprise. Look, we got some propaganda coming out of the AP, the Associated Press. Trump's latest rejection of intelligence assessments reflects a long distrust of spy agencies. Now, you gotta love the illogic in that headline right there, right? His long distrust of spy agencies. Now, think about this for a second. Why should we trust a spy agency? Like, their entire existence is subterfuge. I mean, seriously, sure, the CIA, they may be working on behalf of America in some sense, but they're probably not working on behalf of the American people. Possibly the American government. But, you know, there is an argument to be made that they are just working on behalf of themselves. That is the head of the snake that is the deep state right there. You know, that they intentionally engage in subterfuge all around the world. What makes us believe that they're not going to engage in subterfuge within the United States? What makes us think that we can trust the CIA to tell us the truth? I mean, are we that gullible, folks? But apparently the Associated Press is trying to make you believe that Donald Trump, once again, Republicans are bad and Donald Trump, orange man, not good. And Democrats, we're not going to mention them at all, because anytime we do mention Democrats, it usually ends up bad for Democrats. They say, you know, any press is good press, right? That's not true, folks. That is definitely not true. Just ask Bill Clinton. That's all you got to do, especially when and if we ever get the Epstein files. That's all I'm going to say on that. I'm gonna stop. I promise. President Donald Trump's fights with the intelligence community were running a theme of his first term as he raged against an investigation into his campaign's alleged links to Russia. You love how they just throw that in there. His campaign's alleged links to Russia, as if that is still a question. Now, a sequel is playing out as Trump battles to shape the public's understanding of his foreign policy gamble in Iran. Oh, here we go. You know what this means, folks. Some more propaganda directly for you. An early U.S. intelligence assessment said Iran's nuclear program had been set back only a few months after American strikes on 3 sites last weekend. The Republican president has rejected the report and pronounced the program completely and fully obliterated. Now, he didn't reject the report. He rejected what CNN said. He rejected CNN's reporting on said report. Let's be factual, Associated Press. And once again, like, these people, like CNN, just took this and ran with it. You know, and it was reported on by a known propagandist. No, what was it? Natasha, I can't remember her last name. Natasha something. Oh, gosh, I hate when that happens. Don't you guys hate when that happens? I remember her first name, but I can't remember her second name. But get this, right? So apparently this report was leaked to her specifically. I wonder why that is. But come to find out that this person didn't even read the report. They were looking over the shoulder of somebody else looking at this report it was preliminary, and it was still being done, it's still being worked on, and they just took a section out of it and reported that to old Natasha over here. Fascinating. And so, of course, Donald Trump is going to reject that as fake news. We'll get into my thoughts on this, by the way. I've got some thoughts. But let's keep going with the news. Get that out of the way, because sometimes I do a little bit of filibustering, but it is what it is. The dispute is unlikely to fade anytime soon. Top administration officials are pressing Trump's case, with Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth scolding the media at a Pentagon briefing Thursday for breathlessly focusing on an intelligence report he downplayed as preliminary. It was preliminary. Once again, he downplayed it as preliminary. So, oh God, I hate when they do this micro manipulation stuff right here. So if it's actually preliminary, how is he downplaying it? Do you see where I'm trying to go with this? Now, do you kind of see when they make statements like that, they're trying to manipulate you into thinking that maybe that wasn't preliminary or Pete Hegseth is just lying? Once again, folks, you got to watch for the micro manipulations. They are all over the place. Wow. Briefings are also scheduled for lawmakers, though the White House plans to limit the sharing of classified information after the initial assessment leaked this week. Intelligence people strive to live in a world as it is, describe the world as it is, where politicians are all about describing the world as they want it to be, said Larry Pfeiffer, a 32-year-old intelligence veteran who held positions including CIA Chief of Staff and Senior Director of White House Situation Room. Now, you think about that for a second. CIA Chief of Staff. That's an administrative position. It's not like he's an analyst. So, that's essentially tantamount to a politician, is what I'm trying to get at here. Also, Senior Director of the White House Situation Room. He is directing the analysts in the White House Situation Room. Once again, that's another administrative position that is tantamount to a politician. You gotta love the corporate press, man. Just manipulate. Though it's hardly unheard of for presidents to bristle at what they perceive as bad news from the intelligence community, it's rare for the conflict to spill into public view as it did this week. I don't think we've seen another president push back as strong as this guy has, Pfeiffer said. Trump's suspicion of the intelligence community, particularly when its assessments do not align with its worldview, dates back to even before his first term. His 2016 campaign was shadowed by an investigation into whether his team had coordinated with Russia to sway the outcome of the election. Now, hang on, I got to interject right quick. Did you notice the segue? No, they are smooth, folks. They're smooth criminals. That is for sure. Did you notice the segue? They quickly went away from talking about Trump's assessment of this preliminary report into getting back to the Russian collusion hoax right fast. Once again, folks, manipulation. Yeah, they did that real smooth, real smooth. And I'm not gonna lie. I've already read this. The main focus is on this, and they don't talk about what happened in Iran. The totally obliterated nuclear sites. They don't talk about that at all. They don't expound upon that preliminary report. That was hard to say. They don't talk about that at all. They don't talk about CNN's reporting. None of that. They just quickly mention it right fast, and Trump doesn't believe it, and then let's move on to the Russian collusion hoax, because, folks, we want to make sure and push the idea that Donald Trump is Orange Man. And you got to remember, folks, Orange Man is bad guy. He was so infuriated by the scrutiny over a dossier of unverified and salacious claims connecting him to Russia that, 1 week before he was sworn in, he tweeted, "Intelligence agencies should never have allowed this fake news to leak into the public." One last shot at me. Are we living in Nazi Germany? That's just funny. They're going to drudge up his old tweet. That's fascinating. Trump disputed the assessment that Russia had interfered in the election on his behalf, decrying as a hoax and a witch hunt. An investigation by special counsel Robert Mueller, which ultimately concluded the Trump campaign had welcomed Moscow's help, but did not find sufficient evidence of a criminal conspiracy. I wonder why that is. Oh, you gotta love the Associated Press. Oh, they found evidence. But nothing, there's nothing criminal over here. I wonder why. Why did they not find any criminal act or criminality with the Trump campaign? Maybe that's because the Clinton campaign fabricated the whole thing, Associated Press. But hang on, they're not going to tell us that. No, of course not. Because some people still believe it. Some people absolutely still believe that the Trump campaign colluded with Russia to win the 2016 election, because how else could a fascist brown shirt guy over here, orange brown shirt guy, win that election? There's just no way that a populist with popular policies could win an election in America. You gotta love it. You gotta love the Associated Press. Trump also openly challenged the judgment of his intelligence agency alongside Russian President Vladimir Putin at a Helsinki summit in 2018. I have great confidence in my intelligence people, but I will tell you that President Putin was extremely strong and powerful in his denial today, Trump said. Oh, now he's praising Putin, huh? Is that praise of Putin? John, do you know who I'm talking about? Is that praise of Putin? Let me know down in the comments, John. Love it. He said it's not Russia. I will say this. I don't see any reason why it would be. Such public protestation takes its toll on an intelligence community that historically has endeavored to produce data-driven and apolitical judgments, said Frank Montoya, Jr., a former FBI supervisor who served as director of the National Counterintelligence and Security Center. Now we're worried about the feelings of our intelligence agents because Donald Trump said, well, you know, I think I trust Putin on this issue a lot more than I trust my own intelligence agents. And we're going to get to that, by the way. I was supposed to mention this at the beginning of the video, but I've got a clip to show you guys. I've got a fascinating clip. When you get this kind of unfounded criticism, especially from the policymaker in chief, it just destroys morale, he said. You know, I wonder why. I'm going to go ahead and run that clip. I wonder why Donald Trump doesn't trust his intelligence agents, especially in his first term. I wonder why that could be.
Intelligence community. I work at the CIA. I do cyber operations. I've been doing it for a long time.
So how long have you been working at the CIA?
Since 2008. I've also worked at NSA though. And then I have a TS at C.I.A. with a full scope polygraph. That means that I'm fully vetted.
Amjad Fasisi shows her his CIA identification badge.
No, where does it say?
It doesn't.
Hey, that's the point.
That's the point.
What's CMC?
China Mission Center, darling. That's my mission center.
Gotcha.
Amjad talks about how the CIA kept information from Trump.
Like working?
We kept information from him.
Say one more time.
We kept information from him.
From Trump?
Yes. He's an idiot. There are certain people that would give him a high-level overview but never give it any details. You know why? Because he'll leak those details.
Amjad Fasisi states the higher-ups within the intel community, including CIA directors Mike Pompeo and Gina Haspel, and the upper levels of their staffs colluded to withhold information from sitting President Trump.
So the agencies kind of like all got together and said, we're not going to tell Trump.
The higher-ups.
The higher-ups.
We put it this way, the executive staff. We're talking about the director and his subordinates.
Like what titles are they? They're
Director of the CIA.
director of the CIA would keep.
Yes.
Are you guys still watching him?
I would say yes.
Like, it sounds like you guys are still watching him and his team.
Of course we are. Nothing goes by without somebody watching.
Amjad Fasisi also states as fact that Trump is under constant surveillance and even claims they are spying on his ex-wife.
So you gotta love James O'Keefe and his undercover agents, his undercover spies, if you will. I love it, folks. This guy, just brazenly, to just some random person he's dating, like a first date or second date or something like that, is just brazenly telling this lady, yeah, we withheld all kinds of information from Donald Trump. He doesn't need to know this. He's an idiot. He's a fascist. He's a Nazi. Take his brown shirt off because he's got orange skin and he's bad. So remember that, y'all. Like, and you wonder why. Well, once again, folks, you gotta love these people. You gotta love the Associated Press. It's all manipulation, right? It's all a psyop. Once again, the whole corporate press has turned itself into a psyop to lead you down a path of destruction, to believe their narrative, and to pit me against you. That's what it's for. Because there's some people out there that want to know what actually goes on. They want the facts. And that's it. We don't want your opinions. We don't want none of that. They just want the facts. And look, and if you got to sift through some opinion to get to the facts, good, that's fine. Look, we just wanted the facts in the first place. But when, you know, with the corporate press, they leave out pertinent information that could absolutely rearrange how you view things about a certain story, about, you know, whatever happened. And they leave that information out on purpose That is narrative building, folks. That is propaganda 101. It's manipulating you into believing a false story. It's just nonsense. But I've got another little clip on that too. Check this out. Might as well run it, right?
Have people that monitor that's why.
So you guys had human sources,
How do you think we get information?
like wiretapping? Is that
Steal it.
how did you guys figure out that Trump was colluding with the Russians? Did you guys use
It's just human intelligence.
so the intel community was able to use FISA to spy on Trump and his team, and that's how we found out that he was colluding with the Russians.
That's correct.
Was it the CIA or the NSA that spied on Trump?
So it could be all of them.
So you're saying that your agency, CIA.
A lot of the agencies, he's not going to get re-elected again. I've done the math. It's impossible. We have a choice here. Do we want our democracy or do we want some fucking madman who wants to be a dictator?
Does it say the CIA on your LinkedIn?
Fuck no. We can't do that. And then I worked at NSA for a year.
Okay.
And I was doing some really cool cyber stuff, which I cannot tell you about. Did the Office of Director of National Intelligence. So I helped them stand their insider threat program. They trusted me to set that up.
Yeah.
Just don't tell anybody.
I don't have anyone to tell.
Yeah. This conversation didn't happen.
Of course.
I get strictly denied.
Yeah.
So, folks, yes. As a matter of fact, this is why, once again, you can't always put all the blame on the top guy, right? Like, in the government, it rolls uphill. As a matter of fact, I know it's the only place that, the crap actually works its way all the way to the top when it takes off rolling. So, but you can't always blame the top guy for everything, like all these leaks. The government is not just the Trump administration, right? We have Biden holdovers. We have Obama holdovers. There's a lot of people that have been working for the government for decades, folks. And this is why we have this thing called the deep state. We have these actors that will work against the interests of whatever administration is in power. All right, this is mostly Democrats. Hey, look, I'm biased. I will say it's mostly Democrats because we see these just illegal leaks all the time. We saw them during the Biden administration. I'm not going to lie about that. We saw leaks. We had whistleblowers come forward, but that wasn't necessarily illegal stuff. Right? This stuff we're seeing with the Trump administration, this is illegal. So you always got to remember that in the back of your mind, that, the government is an entity within itself. And just because you got a guy running that government doesn't mean that everybody that's within that government is working on behalf of that guy. Some people are actually working to subvert that dude. And, that's terrible, in my opinion. In a perfect world, all the government employees would be apolitical. They just carry out their duties, do their job, and that's it, and they go home. Have a nice day, right? But that's just not reality. That's just not how things work. And we've got a lot of deranged Democrats out there, folks. And we've got some bad Republicans, too. So I'm going to be fair about that. We got bad Republicans, too, that do bad things that they shouldn't do. But, when it comes to the Democrats, I don't know, I got to rag on Democrats because they just have these insane ideas as to how the world should work, and it just doesn't work. Like we got this communist crap going on up in New York right now with this guy, the socialist or whatever, won the election. It's like, how? I mean, I understand against Cuomo, sure. I hope Eric Adams, which is bad, can pull this off. That's bad when you got a guy like me rooting for Eric Adams, of all people, to win an election in New York. Whatever, I hope whatever Republican is running wins, but it's probably not going to happen unless by some sort of magic, Eric Adams and this other guy, I forget his name, splits the vote and the Republican just so happens to get over the line. That's a possibility, y'all, but you got to love all this. Just don't ever forget that there's always going to be Biden holdovers, holdovers from the previous Democratic administration that are working against the current administration and vice versa. Folks, the Republicans might not go as far. I'm not going to lie. A lot of Republicans, they're just milquetoast type of people. They just don't want to act. They don't want to break the law type of stuff. When in some cases, they should most definitely act. They should push the boundaries just a little bit and see what they can get away with. Because, you know, Democrats do it to us all the time. They push the boundaries, they go over the boundaries all the time, and nothing ever happens. This is why I'm loving the Trump administration going after senators that bum rush the Homeland Security Secretary during a press conference. I'm loving that the Trump administration is going after House of Representatives. Yeah, I said it in a weird way. Sorry about that, but going after McIver for bum rushing, trying to get into an ICE facility, pushing and punching on cops. We just can't have that, folks. And, you know, any other Republican administration would just let all that stuff slide. That they wouldn't have even gotten arrested. But with Trump, I'm glad. Arrest the judges that's breaking the law. If they break the law, show the American people that no one is above the law, because we constantly hear that, but we never see it. But I think I've rambled on for long enough on this one. I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comment section. That's all I got on this one. I want to thank everybody for watching. Hey, y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical.